On this manuscript, we were studying two main effects. The first main effect was basically how the mention of death in pre-reading material could affect participants' moral saliency. The second main effect that we were looking at, we used pro-environmental behaviors and we manipulated whether or not it was weak or strong. So for the first one, in terms of death, what we'd do was we would give information, essentially like a questionnaire, and in it there would be loaded instances that would make the participant think about their own mortality or death in general, and that would be the testing group. And in the control group, those ideas would be replaced instead with something like dental pain that wouldn't necessarily invoke the same feelings of like death or mortality. For the in-group testing, we used pro-environmental behaviors and basically gave results of like a poll that would say something along the lines of 82% of students were pro-environmental behaviors, and then for the other group, the weaker group, it would say 18%, and then we could take an idea and look at these two groups and figure out how strong the will to fit in with this perceived in-group is. And it turns out that they were both significant influencers. It worked almost exactly as you expect. The people that were in the death segment ended up having a much higher score on moral saliency. The people that were in the strong environmental group tended to think that most people were in the strong pro-environmental group. So the next interesting thing that we have to do here is look at the intersection between the two. And what it comes down to is that the high moral saliency group were more likely to conform. So the thought on this is, I guess if you are more in touch with the ideas, this touches on terror management as well. If you are more in touch with the ideas that like there's death and death is there and can happen and it is always being reminded of you, that you're more likely to conform with the group, to fit into the group, so that you can gain something along the lines of like comfort from your social in-group, whatever it is. So you'd be more willing to conform to whatever the social expectations are to be part of that in-group. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. I'd like to move on to the limitations a little bit. The number of students or participants involved were 80. It's a fine number for a smaller test like this. Demographically, it was very short and not exactly widespread. Almost all college-age students, mostly white. So there could definitely be some issues in terms of within society, that very specific society, particularly like white college-age students, might have like a propensity to think more or less about death, and we wouldn't really know until we expand to other cultures or other demographics in general. Age group, I think, is something that definitely needs to be expanded. I would like to see how the moral saliency works as you age. So maybe like some post-retirement people would be an interesting subject. Ideally, if you could get people